Greetings, mortals. I'm your host, Simon. Welcome back to the Library of Gnosis. Today, I have with me a very close friend, Jordan. Introduce yourself.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's great to be here with you all. I don't really know where to start, so I'll just basically start from the beginning.
That's a good
I
place.
grew up. Yes, that's always a good place. That's always a good place. If you don't know where you're at, you know you're there. You know there's got to be a beginning to something.
Yeah.
But so I grew up here in Arkansas, in U.S. of A. Down south. It's
Land
not
of the free.
necessarily. Yeah. It is free. It is free, quote unquote. But no, I grew up here. One of my biggest influences when I was growing up was music, and no matter what was going on in life, whether it was, maybe being short food one night, at least in Memphis, or it was, getting bullied at school, or whatever it was, I was able to either listen to some sort of sound, or be taken away by even like a movie or a video game, anything like that. So I have a pretty expansive. I've touched a few subjects. I did go to college as performance majors, next studies. So that was absolutely probably one of the most jam-packed experiences of my life. I think going to college really accelerated the energy and the progress. And that was the same year my mom got cancer. I was doing a lot. I was creating a lot of it. I was filtering through that I was repressing. And so I moved back here from University of Texas at Tyler. I guess I was 20. Yeah, I was about 20. So this was 5 years ago, 25 years. But basically, I moved back here, and as soon as I moved back here, through that job, I had quite a few experiences that led me to understand there are certain things that you just can't know, even though you have the capability of knowing. Like, there's a certain sensation, there's a certain feeling that we all have, that we know we're capable of something. Like, we know we're better than like the reflections that we see around us or that we project about us. But it's always so hard to actually be able to express that because we're always seeing it through the filtered judgmental factors of the ego. And so, and before we get this whole misconception of ego in and of itself is divine. It is not ultimately a bad thing. It is what we make of it. It exists as a medium through which we experience reality through. And there is only one reality, ultimately speaking, if we're looking at the biggest possible picture. And that's not speakable. I mean, reality isn't speakable. One of the best... Neti. Yes, absolutely. And I think one of the biggest things to me that spoke out about, or that one of the biggest phrases that I heard, was from A Course in Miracles. If I can get it. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. And that's one of my favorite phrases, because when you see that there is only one true reality, well, then that reality does not really change, if that makes any sense. You realize that reality stays the same as it expresses itself through a changing nature that it built for itself, that it designed for itself. So then when the ego begins to merge with this sort of inner knowing, or this sort of inner sense of reality, then things become more heart and mind aligned, if that makes sense. That's actually a very interesting word. I never really described it before. but it is it's a very profound thing. So don't ever think that the ego is terrible, or that it should be shunned, or that this, that, and the other about it. All that's just gossip. It's just hearsay of the collective's unconscious mind. It's easier not to focus on gaining enlightenment through those ways of activity. Now that we have that out of the way, and we'll delve more into that later. So that it's, if it comes up, it comes up, and we'll
All right.
But what was that, Simon?
Aight. All right. Aight.
Oh yeah. But so, as far as where I was in my personal journey, I was 20 and I was working at an IHOP, and I got let go from there. Well, actually, I didn't really get let go. I knew that I was going to get let go, sort of, if I went in. And she was like, "Look," she was like, "Come in tomorrow, see if you have a job, because you were supposed to come in today at a certain time." And I thought that I was supposed to be coming in at another time. I came in at 8. And they said for me to come in at 6. And I told them the week before, I was like, I can't come in, you know what I mean, if that makes any sense. And so I get there at 8 in the morning or whatever, and they're like, "Hey, so you missed your 2 hour, you're 2 hours late or whatever." And I was like, "What the hell do you mean I'm 2 hours late?" And so she was like, "Come back to work tomorrow to see if you have a job, but we're just going to let you stay home for today." And I'm like, "Actually, no, I quit." Because I knew if I came in the next day, they were just going to be like, "Yeah, you're basically."
Yeah.
And at least that's what kind of went through my head. And as soon as that thought went through my head, it was just like this. It was like this weight lifted, and it was like this immensity, not immensity, just this sense of knowing, just this light sense of knowing, just kind of spread through my entire body. And that was when I knew I'd made the right choice whenever I'd made it. After that, I was actually addicted from it. I was homeless for a couple of weeks before I had stayed with a friend of mine, moved in with her. And, she was kind enough to let me stay there, take out trash. And the thing was, she was pregnant, so she would allow me to stay there, and, she would cook or whatever, and I would just clean and, whatever I could, whenever working until I got a place, which got a place 2 or 3 months later, I believe. And so after that experience, it really showed me that you can come to certain points in your life where you don't have any other choice than to act certain ways, no matter what you've been told. And so when I realized that, then I realized that this system, whatever this system is, it must be a system of breaking down and rebuilding. It has to be. There's no other way. It has to be a continuous system of breaking down and rebuilding. There's no way.
The alchemical process.
Right, exactly.
Nigredo and Rubedo.
Exactly. It's like if it takes one thing, if it takes one action for me to take everything that I perceive and have away from me, then this has to be supposed to be happening. You know what I mean? This has to be intentional, And so once I started understanding that, I was like, well, then maybe I should, start getting into psychology. Maybe I should start learning how to understand my mind, learning how to understand just things in general. And so basically my spiritual background stems from there. I did trade currencies. I traded foreign exchange currencies for a while, and there was a book called Trading Psychology. And I think Mark Douglas, I want to say, is the author of that book. That is a wonderful book, and it does a wonderful job of presenting to the public how much your emotions affect your everyday decision-making skill. And when I realized that what I should be focusing on, first of all, at least at where I was at that point in time, was balancing my emotions. Because if I balance my emotions, then my emotional body can act as one thing. So it's like, yes, you may be able to feel dissonances within you whenever you make a decision, yet you made the right decision at the bottom of your... You know what I mean? Like when you're in those situations when you like if someone asks you for something and you just can't bring yourself to give it to them, and you don't know why, but you also feel a dissonance in the situation, then there's a good chance that you're experiencing basically what I just explained. And so I came upon Eastern practices through Carl Jung. I know you've done a little bit of research of Jung yourself.
I love Young. The best.
Yeah, he's wonderful. He's a true visionary. True visionary. Um, but I was approaching spirituality through his standpoint, through psychology and psychiatry and the alchemical what do you call it, template of reality. And eventually I just got so tired of not knowing that I just said fuck it. Like it got to a point, the fire inside got so deep that, or it started burning so deeply that I just said fuck it. And I was let go from Ruby Tuesdays. I was working there at the time. I had gotten a job at this point then, and it was COVID. They let me go because we weren't making any money, and they were shutting the business down. They were shutting that restaurant down. And so I was like, well, this is my opening. This is my chance. I'm getting, I think it was like upwards of $1,700 every 2 weeks to sit in mass. I was like, this is my opening. Like I could do yoga, I can do all these things, and I can, understand these things from this. So that's what I did. And about a month in, and I'd say like the first 2 or 3 weeks, I wasn't doing much, but I was meditating and doing hatha and kundalini yoga every day. So I was doing hatha at night and I was doing kundalini yoga in the morning. And I was scheduling 3 sessions of just pure meditation throughout the day, which is just sitting. It's called Vipassana. Vipassana. I'm 110% sure how you pronounce it. But in Zen, they call it just sitting meditation. And through those practices, I came upon a state of reality where I was asleep at night, or I was going to sleep at night, and I legitimately was so deeply relaxed that I was aware of the function of sleep, yet I was still deeper than it, but I was conscious. I was aware of it. You know what I mean? And so
No,
when I realized that,
I don't.
because what it is, okay, a better way to kind of explain it is whenever you're trying to do something, when you say that I'm trying, you imply a sense of block, or that there's an obstacle, or that it's a hassle to do, or that it's difficult. This wasn't difficult at all because I noticed that it simply was farther away from me than where I was currently residing. And so instead of trying to latch on to the idea of sleep, I simply went deeper. And so whenever I let go more and I went deeper more, I started seeing this merge of green and blue light, right? It wasn't like a light show like you would think at first. It's very, very subtle. You know what I mean? And as it got more and more intense, it got more and more wavy and wavy and wavy, and then green and blue started to intensify in color, and they started to sort of like merge together in a sense. And then it started turning into a more of like an intense indigo-ish, purple-ish. And then it was like this launch of energy. It was like a record band snapping. And then I was just into a void. It wasn't really a thing. There was no thing. I was just being. And also keep in mind, it's not always necessary to speak about experiences like these. The reason that I speak on experiences about these is because we are in a certain state of time where people do need to be able to understand their experiences with words. And that's one of the biggest things, one of the most helpful things that I've understood through this experience, is that it's not about focusing on how to express your experiences into words. It's not about that at all. It's about truly experiencing the moment And if you truly experience the moment, those words will come, and if you are in that deep state of presence, then that will be known as well. And so, whether or not someone perceives it, of course. And so anyway, I felt this entity, and it was the most loving sensation, quote unquote, that I've ever felt. And I say sensation because this was deeper than sensation. This was extrasensory, absolutely. And it was a motherly, a very motherly feel. It was very, very divine. And it was speaking to me. I assumed that it was Mother Nature. I don't want to my feminine counterpart, spirit guide, however you want to explain that or express that. But I don't remember much of the conversation now. I'd written it down in a diary, and it got lost in the move. I still had a lot of filters that I was still using, and I was still using the ego in ways that I wasn't really fully conscious of at first. Kind of like the whole words thing. I was saying you don't need to focus on learning how to express your words better. You know what I mean? You just need to feel yourself moving. And if you feel yourself moving in the direction of learning about words, then that's cool. But don't force yourself to be okay, I need to be able to explain this better. Because you do have to come to a certain level of acceptance within the self before you can truly expand. And I think that's the part we miss. We miss the cleansing. We miss that part before we expand. And I think we just expand those lower states of mind rather than higher states of mind. And we just get off. And that's basically what they were trying to get me to understand, and that experience in particular, and numerous experiences after that. And this is through different systems and things that I've implemented and that I've recorded results from and things of that nature, which I still am. I'm still undergoing those experiences and things of that nature. But the biggest thing I think to take away from all of it is just always be yourself, and don't be afraid to allow the systems that used to hold you up break down. You can know for sure that if something's breaking down, or if something wants to break down within you, that it's time for it to break down. All it breaks down is up to what you allow yourself to be open to, and how many different ways you allow yourself to be able to transmute energy. Open do you leave yourself to these different ways? It's like the little engine that could. You know what I mean? If you say you can't, you really can't. This also doesn't mean that those words and those things don't need to be expressed, because remember, those are functions. See, reality is not a function. And once you truly are focused on the internal nature of reality, then those functions are simply seen as functions, and they're experienced as functions. And so you don't judge them for what they are. They're functions, and you're in the process of transforming those functions into your consciousness states of reality. Because you know that it's an integration process. It's not about excluding anything, it's about integrating, if it makes sense. You have to integrate those functions before they can be transformed. And so, from then until now, I've basically just been focused on energy work, personal healing, expansion through what I would consider tribe family, and just allowing myself to be. And yeah, I think that about sums it up.
I'm really interested in your worldview of how things manifest into reality. I think that's something people will find very interesting. How the higher like the first cause is always mental,
Yeah.
or I'd like you to speak about that.
Yeah, manifestation is always fun to talk about. It's
Yeah.
it's one of those you could spend all night talking about if you wanted to.
Yeah, let's
So
go.
there are different ways. There are different ways. I'm sorry to cut you off. There are many different ways that you can perceive manifestation. But the number one rule about manifestation that you have to understand if you want to do it accurately is that you are constantly manifesting. You are 150%, 24 hours of the day, 7 days a week, manifesting your own reality. That means that you have no, if you choose to see yourself in that standpoint, you have no right to say that something that is usually perceived as someone else doing. You have to understand that that is a reflection of you and that you manifested that somehow. That does not mean obsess about figuring out how necessarily that you manifested it, but it is about knowing that you contributed in some way, shape, form, or fashion to the situation that you are currently experiencing. Now, with that being said, there is also another term that I've heard. I've heard what I think her name is Mandy Morris, and she used the phrase counter manifestation, and that is extremely powerful. That resonated deeply with me because it is there's manifestation, and then in a sense there is counter manifestation because each and everything is in and of itself its own universal expression of the one universe, if that makes sense. And so when it knows it's the one universe, yet expressing itself as many, then it's able to do so in a manner that doesn't cause stress, harm, or any kind of friction to the system. And that's not. I'm not referring to the governmental system, of course. I mean to the system of reality, to the system of nature. Friction creates heat and stress. Spontaneous combustion is also talked about pretty frequently in the spiritual area or in the
Really?
spiritual.
I made
What's that?
I made a video about your idea of spontaneous combustion, actually.
Oh yeah, yes, yeah, and that really is what it is. It's basically your internal nature. Well, I mean, it is your internal nature, but it's the friction caused between you as your internal nature holding on to a belief system that is not of your internal nature, that is not of your base roots, if that makes any sense. So like
Yeah.
for instance, I can go down to Walmart and buy zucchini until I can't, right? So
Food shortage is coming.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, whether it's an actual food shortage or not, if it's not there, it's simply not there. And so the idea about transforming the neurological pathways into perceiving the world in a way that is harmonious, no matter how awful it looks, it's gonna take a lot of of digging.
Perception is very important. Like
Yeah,
the way you
the
approach
mind.
life, like everything's based like I'll say like that. If you're, let's say you get lost in the woods or something, and you're like every mile you're walking, you're thirsty and everything, but if you had the idea, like if you had the conviction, the belief that it was hopeless, then you wouldn't keep walking, would you? You just lay
Right,
down and
right,
die.
right, right. If you had the conviction of the exactly, and the biggest thing to understand about that is that belief in and of itself is a system. It is a system that must be broken to attain true enlightenment. You do not have to believe that you exist to know that you exist. That's the dumbest shit ever. You shouldn't have to. You shouldn't have to. Some people do. Some people really do have that sense. And I was in a state of mind at one point in time where I felt like I had to have a label. I had to have something to express some creative internal nature of my being. I had to have some label that would allow me to express that. And once that's broken, it opens up so many more doors and so many more ways for you to actually move within the universe, because you start to prove some of these ideas to yourself, some of these systems and some of these perceptions to yourself. And then you realize that they're all just perceptions, and that you can use different perceptions to create tools that allow you to deepen your self-realization and to be able to hold more energy, to be able to create more of what you would consider, or more of what you would want your reality to look like in this dimension, to further along the evolutionary process. And that's from like a soul point of view. That's not from like an egocentric point of view.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how does like you were talking about? I remember a couple days ago we're talking about like a broken foot. How that why you manifested it, how it works, like how you manifest illness, sickness, and everything like that.
Yeah. So when you, let's say that you look up online, like what there are going to be a list of things that you can find over the internet, just in life in general, that are going to say, if you see a cardinal, it means this, or if you break your foot, it means this. How that happens and how you interact with manifestation in those senses is, number one, the amount of energy you put into the belief. So if you put enough energy into a belief system that says cardinals means this certain thing, then you will perceive that as it meaning that certain thing. If that is a system that redirects the energy into a positive nature, then that's not necessarily a belief system that you should drop, is it? Because it's still promoting to your positive move up the ladder. But if it is a blueprint that redirects the system, or redirects the energy in a way that is negative, and you don't need negative energy, because there are certain states of positivity, like when you do yogic exercises, you're focusing on expanding yourself. So you do have to kind of reground and kind of rebalance yourself. So you do need a little, negative energy, so to speak, to kind of like bring you back into equilibrium.
Saturn, god of balance.
Sorry, what was that?
Saturn, god of balance.
Exactly. And so the idea is not necessarily to change the systems, but it's to change the patterns within the systems. And so, like, because the systems in and of themselves are divine, right? That's why if you look at the 7 chakra centers, and we'll have a quick discussion about the chakra centers. Yeah. The chakra systems in and of themselves are a beautiful and wonderful way to experience self-realization. However, it still has to abide by what I just said, where the amount of energy you put into the system is how effective it can be for you. To the degree of energy that you put into the system is to the degree of self-realization that you can get out of the system, right? So these things are very important to understand, because when you really get that, then you can see how you can use different systems together and create your own system that allows you personally to go deeper within your own internal nature, because no one else can possibly have that system. You see what I'm saying? No one else could possibly have the exact same system you have. And so
we're all special snowflakes.
Right. And so, because you're no longer creating from a source that wishes to change nature. You're creating from a source that understands it is accepting nature. And so I think that really is one of the main things that we need, or that we should use as motivation to redirect our energy to more positive blueprints, more positive things in our lives, rather than focusing on the negative things.
What do you say? Like what you put your attention to grows, whatever.
Yeah,
That's why
what,
so many people, even like Alex Jones.
yeah, he's
Um,
crazy.
yeah, because he's been reading like all this conspiracy,
Right.
all this like
He's he's he's
dark
not he's not
stuff.
he's not a bad he's not a bad person, and he's not wrong in a lot of the conspiracies that he talks about. He may not be wrong in a lot and about a lot of the happenings of things of that nature. But here's the thing: it doesn't matter because it's not grounded, and so it doesn't. He doesn't give himself as good of a platform to be able to express honest truth in. It's like he's expressing truths, yes, and he is using the energy of truth to express those truths, right? But the systems, the neurological systems, and the physiological effects that have come from the stress of looking at these conspiracy theories from fear states of mind or fear-inducing states of mind have been disastrous for his image, have been disastrous for what people think of him. But this is gonna happen. This is gonna happen. Like when you really start to just say fuck it and express what you truly feel like your inner truths are and things of that nature, that's gonna happen. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm just saying that he's in a certain season of his own realization where that is the case. And to be honest, I think that most of us are in a certain degree, in a certain sense. And I know for a fact that if I had some of the things broadcasted that I'm guilty of and things of that nature to, billions of people before I was ready for it, you know what I mean? That can have disastrous effects on health or millions of people, that can be disastrous on your mental health.
The NSA is working on it.
yeah, exactly. Because that can be a disastrous amount of disharmonic energy, intervening within your universal field. You see what I'm saying? You begin to not know which thoughts are yours or quote unquote theirs. See, and so you start to possess a lot of those abilities, or not abilities, but you start to possess a lot of those perceptions in order to express those fear-induced states of mind.
We're talking about this earlier. It's interesting that we're not a closed ecosystem. Like you have your own thoughts, you have your own emotions and everything. But I think like demonic possession or whatever, like entity attachment, and that could be good, bad, or neutral,
Yeah, so one of the main things that I can say, and this is another reason why you really do want to be some state of experientially enlightened before you do things like healing work. That is because possession and demonic energetic frequencies, when you are capable of and have held an immense amount of light within you, if you can't hold that state of understanding long enough, then you begin less and less able to transmute your physical surroundings and your effects. You begin less able to reap what you sow. This is the main reason why they say once you flip the switch of polarity, there's no real coming back. There's no way you can really go back to the way you were before.
Once you go black, you can't go back.
Yeah. I mean, you just can't let yourself. You literally, there's like this internal fundamental base that just cannot be broken. And it's just an understood base. There's no doubting it. There's just action from it. When the fire burns, the expression that emits is what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm satisfied with that answer.
You're satisfied with that?
Yeah, I think so.
Ribbed for her pleasure.
Yeah. Oh man, but yeah, and well, okay. I guess I could also say that to really close all that out, I would say that um my own personal experiences as far as healing, I've healed, quote unquote healed. You're not technically healing; you're just acting as a channel to bring energy up through your system and bring energy down through your system for a person, if that makes any sense, because you're experiencing them as yourself when you're undergoing the healing process, right?
Yeah,
So so
transmutation.
basically, yeah, basically you're just using the more harmonious shape that you are for more for higher energy to come through and change those shapes basically. That's why you feel a lot lighter when you come out of it. You know, your unseen your unseen geometries are in a better alignment. It's like a soul massage. It's like an auric. It's like an arc massage.
I like the
So
saying that angels fly because they take themselves lightly. Pretty good.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Because see, what happens is if you start to start creating karma from a more dense state of mind with all that light and all that energy, then you're going to start to see denser and denser and denser reflections of that as well. And so you really need to limit how much you interact with the world. You really do, like when you're actually on the process going up, and you know you're on the process going up, and you really are aware of these things. And so you just kind of naturally do it when you know you need to do it. Because if you don't, not only you fall out of alignment within yourself, but everything around you will fall apart. Because when you become massive enough to literally see how you affect your circle of friends or your group of everyday life and things of that nature, then you have the capability of amassing all of them as yourself. And the thing is like the only thing that's stopping you is your response to it, to how they are, to how everything is. And most people to these healing processes and things of that nature. I'm not going to say most people. I'm definitely not going to say most people, but a lot of people that get into these healing classes and things of that nature. Yes, it opens their mind up, and it does get them interested into the path and the journey, and there's nothing wrong with it and things of that nature. But just make sure that when you teach it, you make sure that you get them to understand the importance of knowing how and when to cleanse yourself and ground yourself. And because if you haven't had a solid experience with reality yet, or as reality yet, I should say, then it's too easy to become possessed by demons that are purified during those healing courses. Because you come out of the healing process and you're like, okay, it's done. Because see, in the egotistical state of mind, you're seeing the healing process as like a job or like a function that you enjoy doing, when in all reality, healing is a state of mind. You are jumping into that state of healing to allow another person to heal, and it is your intention that allows you to do so. It is your intention to heal someone that allows the divine energy to spread through you and into them. And so whenever if we don't naturally have our intentions on self healing and self progression, if we're not already in that state of mind, then after the healing is over with, we'll just come out of it and we'll set our intentions elsewhere. And so then that gives chances for energy to kind of filtrate the system and kind of attach itself to certain void pockets and things of that nature. And then they just build and grow. And before we know it, it's taken us over and we're responding through rage and anger, everything else. Ah!
Yeah, well, like you said, anger, rage, it's a tool. It's but
It
it's
is.
not something you want to get stuck in.
Exactly. And like I said, when you can see it as a function, then you understand that it is a function. And so if you choose to use that function, if that function still serves you for your immediate surroundings to get you to, or to move you through to the higher states of reality, then you must do that. But that's why you have to keep your mind on the divine, because you have to know that it's there. You know what I mean? You have to know where you're going, if that makes any sense. You have to have that internal faith of not being afraid to take leaps. You know, you have to have that feeling underneath you that everything's going to be fine. You know.
I mean, worst case scenario, you die, and that's when everything will be fine, or you're dead. Depending on the worldview.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's very different. It's very different to have, like, okay, it's very different for me to have that kind of worldview. Like right now I have a certain worldview. I have that worldview in general, of course. But what I'm saying is, like, when I do intense breathing sessions of Wim Hof, when like my body locks up, can't do anything. Like, those are true tests to how your worldview actually is. Like, you should see life how you live it and how you be it, if that makes any sense. And so, like, when we talk about my perception of worldview, quote unquote, it's not my perception. I don't claim that perception, like, if that makes any sense. I just allow energy to express itself through my neurological pathways, and the way that it brings things together, it develops a certain sort of view from a bunch of different perceptions that I've seen through. And that's how the ego works. That's how you can tell if it's the ego, the egocentric mind, and really just the function of ego in general. It works by needing to know certain processes all the way through. Like, it has to be sure that it knows something, if that makes any sense.
That sounds a lot like anxiety. You know, you're constantly like planning for the future. You're checking every like option of what if this happens.
Right. To the degree at which you it depends on the degree that you exactly. And that's what people fail to understand when they are in these deep states of anxiety and things. That's why I brought up my analogy, or my talk about my worldview, or the worldview that I currently express, is because it is a combination of things, and it is not one thing that I am working to solidify, so to speak. Will I perfect it? Yeah, of course, absolutely. But will it be ever solidified? No. Because the way that we need to interpret information is different depending on how everything is responding in its immediate area of expression or of experience. There's a passage in the Bible where Jesus talks about, when you go through someone's town, accept what they give you to eat.
That's Buddhist. Like the Buddha, he only like ate meat if it was like gifted to him. It was like Buddhist.
Yeah, well, and Jesus, what Jesus was really referring to was, he was referring to, like, okay, we're alchemists, so to speak, like we study alchemy. So Ouroboros, he was referring to, when you go to a town, like, you have the power to accept the food of whatever energy it is that is, if that makes any sense, and accept it as a part of yourself, if that makes any sense. But you still have the integrity to make the decision on if you want to respond a certain way or not through it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's what he was trying to get at. He was trying to get at that idea that if you continuously take in the same kinds of energy, you're just going to continue to emit alterations, worse and worse alterations of said manipulated energy. And that's exactly what we see the archons doing, or that we see the dark parts of ourselves doing. that we feel the dark parts of ourselves doing. I don't know if you've ever had suicidal thoughts, but if you've ever been under that state of mind where that function, that suicidal function, where like as soon as energy is put through it, it spits something negative right back out at you. The soul gets tired of it. It gets tired of getting that same negative shit gets spit back into it. And it's growing it. It's growing it because the soul is really starting to see it as that negativity as itself. And so that's why we're only capable of...
As you think, so you act.
Exactly. And that's what that really means. It doesn't mean that you're not capable of expanding yourself by any means. That's a stretch of the imagination. That's not what that means. It means that you are capable of it. It's just that when you aren't, you truly are not. If there were times in the universe, if there weren't times in the universe, if there weren't times in the universe that were frozen in time or stopped to be experienced because it needed to be experienced, then we wouldn't experience them. Like past lives, we wouldn't experience them. Nebulas, galaxies, we wouldn't fucking experience them if we didn't want to ultimately, collectively, as the one soul. Because it's not ultimately what we are. It's expressions of what we are. It's not ultimately what we are. Only we are what we are.
Well, there's no explanation to what we are.
Exactly.
We're a paradox within a paradox.
Right.
Something.
It confounds the intellect.
Yeah, netty. Right?
Exactly.
Once you get into these, like, where's that from? He who knows does not speak. Whatever, is that from the Emerald Tablets? Kibalium?
Yeah. And that's like, only reason I'm even able to speak of things of this nature is because I'm able to go into a certain state of mind, a certain level of presence, and just stay open and allow energy to just flow through and pick from all the perceptions that I've experienced through. Granted,
that's an interesting thing. Like, I noticed you can make a lot of progress. Like, for a while there, I just kind of accept that everything is true. Like, anything I heard, it's pretty much true.
Right,
really
yeah.
Being that open.
Because, in a sense it is, because to them and their reality, and they're just as much of the creator as you are, something is real to them. So if it's real to them, in a sense, you have to perceive it as real to you as well. However, your response to that realness, your response to how that is, that's you. That's you, sir.
That's often why we get the same things keep happening to us, like the negative things, perhaps, and like change the way like you're testing if you're gonna respond the same way, pretty much.
Right. Because it's like I said earlier, if you're creating from, let's say you're out drinking and partying one night, but then the next day, you're out meditating with the shamans before you've had any sort of, nervous system preparedness or, anything like that, then you're more likely to lose yourself and go kind of psychotic, because you're creating so much karma from these different states of mind without any training of holding center,
I think,
or holding yourself in your.
Seems to me like psychotic breaks are like they're just that, they're breaks. They're like a reset. I don't know. Like sometimes you have to blow off steam and like. I think a lot of smart people had psychotic like breaks. Like it's interesting.
Yeah, well,
it seems like a natural thing, and
yes,
people have it.
Yes, it is a natural thing, and the thing that you realize through these experiences of blending perceptions together to express the deeper level of internal nature that you feel coursing within you when you go through enough of these experiences, you realize that you literally are the tool. Like, this body is the tool. You know what I
No,
mean?
you're
Or
the
is a
tool.
tool. Yeah, you are the tool. You literally are the tool. And when you realize that you are the tool, then you also simultaneously realize that the tool is what the quote unquote son of God is. And that when you realize the tool, that action of realizing is the Father in action, right? So when you realize that, then you get why you can't know that you're the Son unless you know you're the Father. You can't know you're the Father unless you know you're the Son.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you have any like? Do you have any opinion on like how like birth and like pre life, how that works? How things like
You said,
manifest down, like before you were born, you were probably disincarnated spirit, right?
and then
Like astral
yes, yes.
something realm.
Yeah, so we have diagrams that can help us unfold that realization within ourselves. We have the tree of life. We have things like the Gregorian calendars. We have things like, I'm pretty sure, I can't remember exactly the name, because I did a bit of magic study. I studied magic, mostly the Golden Dawn system. I studied magic for about 3 months, 3 to 4 months, and I think I got plenty of what I needed out of it. I can't remember the name of but basically there's like an earth in the center, and there are these spherical, there are these layers, there are these circles, and it's basically like these layers, right? And so the earth in the middle represents basically the Saturnian nature, the Saturnian, or the physical, right? The physiological
Material.
systems. Material, exactly. The lunar body is the level, right, quote unquote, above the Saturnian body, which is the astral realm, which is Malkuth, or actually Yesod, I'm sorry, which is actually Yesod.
It's in Malkuth,
Malkuth,
like the base. The base, like
yeah,
Saturn. It's in
Malkuth is
Malkuth, but Saturn, pretty much. The
yeah,
lowest chakra.
yeah, like yeah. That's what I meant to say. Malkuth is basically Saturn.
Yeah.
Because it's where all astral, all divine energies are processed through the astral realm, which are then processed through the physical realm, for all intents and purposes. So your subconscious mind is also affiliated with the lunar body, with the subconscious, with the Yeso dimension of self. This is also the root chakra in the Kundalini system, or in the Indian system, which is why the Kundalini resides there. Is because they say until you're born there, until you're born from the root, until you're born from that subconscious nature, you can't truly start transmuting, you can't consciously truly start transmuting that subconscious nature into purity, if that makes any sense. But once you bring your energies high enough there, and your divine self comes down to meet you there in that spot, and your lower nature comes up to meet you in that spot, when enough of that energy culminates there, then it shoots up through the system and meets in the third eye, and that's when you have your experience of Kundalini. So, in these processes, this is always happening. Every breath you take, this energetic
Every
process
breath
is.
you take, every move you make.
Ah, yes.
Sorry, I had to. Go on.
Very, very good reference. But yeah, it really is that deep. And so when we talk about wisdom, wisdom is knowing when it is necessary to speak like this, to pass energy on in this nature. Like we've created this certain platform so that we can express from a certain state of being certain qualities of energy, certain states of mind, right? So that's what this certain platform is for, right? Now, if I walk into a restaurant, it's a completely different platform, right? So it may not be necessary to say break everything down or explain something intellectually to someone who isn't capable of understanding the way expressing that energy. Right? They just see it as a bunch of anxiety. Because to them the way that their nervous system responds is different because we're all at different expansion levels, right? And so, and that's not to say that once you do have certain expansion levels that you're gonna choose to change the way that your nervous system responds in certain ways, because you don't have to choose a certain way to change your nervous system or anything like that. All you have to do is follow what you feel like you want to go towards and let the energy that provides you with transmute your pathways, your geometric patterns. That's what they mean when they say, like, let God work and move through you. But the other part of it is, and this is going back to what we were talking about, manifestation. Oh yeah, I don't even think we really fully finished manifestation.
Huh?
So the thing with manifestation is that people are receiving spiritual teachings from the state of mind of Malkuth. They're receiving it from a state of mind of, like, they haven't transcended or realized themselves at the astral yet. And so, and even realizing yourself at the astral isn't necessarily realizing yourself as the Christ. You know what I mean? It opens you up enough to give you the tools necessary to allow that to become an experience within this lifetime. But it's not necessarily the solar body awakening. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's more or less you receiving your solar body through and as your lunar body after you've cleansed your lunar body all the way out for the most part.
This is interesting.
So that's what the whole empty the cup thing means. So, manifestations. When you have completely emptied your cup, your manifestation will be immediate. Whatever it is, whatever divine energy it is that's moving through you will be immediate. It'll be because you are only capable of creating and experiencing exactly what you just put out because you've cleansed to a new level, quote unquote. This level happens infinitely, right? We continuously grow. However, there is the one absolute reality behind it all that is the source of the infinite energy that we are, which is not even understandable or explainable by the one soul until it all merges back into itself as the Father. Right, neti, exactly. And so manifestation is usually learned and expressed and also used in a manner that is wanting to avoid pain. Maybe not chase pleasure exactly. Usually chase pleasure, yes, but a lot of times it's just to avoid pain, because that's a lot of times the depth that that's where we've gone to.
Survival.
Exactly. So once you avoid pain, right? Once you are able to avoid some of this pain, you get this sense of lightness. You get this newfound energy, this new sense of essence, right? And so then it's about how do you respond to that new sense of essence? Okay, how do you put it into, art? Do you put it into your thoughts? Do you put it into your foot? Do you put it into your finger? Do you put it into your your blood vessel that is located within the spleen? Where do you put it?
Something says that's like when you're analyzing reality and you see how much like pain and suffering there is, then you listen to a song that's like an emotional song. Let's put it that way. Like somebody had to go through the pain to make this song.
Right.
For me to listen, it's very interesting. Like for me to have this experience of listening to this song, a lot of pain went through it, and it's something beautiful about it, I think.
It is, because what's happening is that it opens up that part within us because everything is connected. And so what happens along the way is that you realize when you are open, that is the only true time that you have freedom.
All right.
And the reason for that is because when you are so focused on directing your energy into a certain image, a certain dream, a certain shape, a certain reality, you tend to simply start to expect them. And the thing about it is that when you're putting that kind of energy into those kinds of visuals and images and whatever, you cannot expect how it's going to come about. And so therefore, you begin to realize that the only way to truly manifest what's going to make you happy is to stop saying, number one, saying that something is going to make me happy. And number two, allowing yourself to follow the things that do make you feel happy with intent upon and or upwards of progression on the upward spiral. You have to have that intent. You have to have that. You have to be sick enough of the games. You have to be. You have to have it guarded up.
Real happiness is not supposed to be conditional. It's supposed to be a state of being, not a reward system. This is just another trap, really.
So, like, I believe Bashar refers to that.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. I was referencing Bashar. Kind of a fanboy.
And that's the other thing, too, though, is because when we jump into our lower natures, we feel that we are forced to defend our image of what and who we are.
Yeah.
The truth of who you are does not need to be defended in any way, shape, form, or fashion. It is not necessary for it to be defended. So when you find yourself defending something, you ask yourself, where does this originate? And you don't necessarily think about it in thoughts. You can use it different ways. For instance, I think about it, or I feel about it. So I feel first and then thoughts later, right? So if you're so deep in your thoughts, you can have thoughts which cause feelings and then make that circle back and then do it. It's longer that way, but until you're able to control that function of the thinking mind, then it's much easier to... Because a lot of times, if you're under the thinking mind, you're under the sensations of the body, right? Of the physiological system, of what it craves, and of what its conditioned mind has led it to believe that it wants or needs. And so then we get caught in the whole thing of, why do I just keep trying to do the things that make me feel good, but I keep getting bad results? I keep getting bad fruits. And that's exactly why. It's because the mind has literally fucking twisted itself. It's made itself opposite. Your art field, if you read that book, I believe we've both spoken on it, The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life.
Oh yeah,
he talks about he talks about Drunvala Melchizedek. He talks about in there when you are when the subset power has grown larger than you, the power, when you have given the subset more belief than the truth of your nature. Well, when you have given it to belief, because again, you don't have to believe to be, you just have to be what truth is, what you are. When you've given belief so much power that it has allowed itself to build systems within itself to trap you, then you have to break some things down. And there is no shame in doing so. That's why the anger has to be expressed somewhere along the line. All of those frequencies of energies are still present within the universe because we as truth still give them a reality. We still give those energies a place to exist, if that makes any sense. Like, we literally had to develop the perception of how to transform these negative qualities of energies over however many lifetimes it's taken us to learn how to do it. Like, how do we use this negative energy that we've created of ourselves to turn it into something pure? Because it is so not pure, a lot of it.
I feel like that's our current culture is very, very not pure. It's a lot of bullshit.
Purely impure because of the way that the mind has twisted itself into believing that it really is this immense being of action versus this immense being of being. It really is like a wave.
Yeah, we're all waves in a one big ocean for sure.
Oh, and back to manifestation. That's okay.
Yeah.
So manifestation. What this has to do with manifestation is once you realize this, then you can start to use your thoughts to trick yourself into going back to your own true nature. The only thing that this requires is for you to A, pick up belief systems that allow you to do this. B, implement those belief systems that allow you to do this. And C, do it consistently and observe the results. Observe how your reflections respond to you. If people naturally seem brighter, don't write it off as, oh, they're just in a good mood. No, that's an old system. Remember, you've adopted a new system. You said, no, if I project goodness, I get goodness back. You know what I mean? So therefore, if I continue to do these things, then I'll be able to cultivate a platform that can allow a place of reflection, literally. That's what gurus are. They literally just shine and they reflect off of you, and you act as the mirror. You're the mirror. You're the physical thing that the truth reflects through. But what reflects back through the mirror? Yourself. So it's not that.
I've been doing this from one thing to another. I've been doing this thing every time I go outside for a smoke or something. I look up to the sky, and expecting to see a UFO or whatever. And then there's this like critical voice in my head, but you never see anything. And I'm trying to. UFOs are self-confirming. Yeah.
It's another experience. It's another world. It's another reality to experience. It's not the one reality, but it has.
That's like magic. That's how magic works from beliefs. So if I'm constantly like, oh, I'm not gonna see anything when I'm looking up at the sky, it's pretty much I'm manifesting that. I'm manifesting not seeing anything.
Right, and see the difference between like manifesting and intention is that there is the surrender aspect of it, where you're already coming from a state of mind everything that happens is perfect.
Yeah.
There is no thing wrong. Because if everything is me, then whatever is flowing through me must be unraveling itself. Because what I feel is pure bliss and joy. So this comes after all systems of needing to do anything go. And that state of mind is, we can go in and out of time. We're capable of going in and out of time. That's what we do every day. Time. That's why we recenter. That's why, if you go out to the bar, you come home and recuperate. Even hangovers, being hungover and vomiting, or shitting, getting the shits. I get the shits a lot. Sometimes. I've been clean from drinking for 2 or 3 months now.
Beer fucks my stomach.
Yeah,
alcohol in general. Really.
That's just another way of recentering. Because what's happening is the life force energy is literally repairing your system. When you start to use that energy that repairs the system for things that aren't the bodily system, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you don't need to, because it's, satisfied, it's not constantly repairing itself from stress and, beating itself up, then you're able to actually move different ways in the universe. All of a sudden, you don't have to have that job to have that house you want. You just offer someone a crystal out of the goodness of your heart because you feel so open and so joyous. And they say, hey man, I would like a roommate at my mansion or something.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay, that's beautiful. You manifested that. But you manifested it through the law of surrender. You didn't manifest it through the law of attraction, through focusing on having good vibes so that you attract what you need to attract. You weren't really truly going through the actions of focus. Like, you weren't trying to focus. You weren't doing anything. You know what I mean? You were just being. There wasn't anything that you were doing other than being what you truly felt joyous in so doing.
Act on your passion. All right.
Yeah. And that's why it baffles
for
me.
Trying to be like a good person has never been like something I've tried to do. Like, I feel like you have this like internal compass. Like, this is right, this is wrong. You have this like, I think a problem with a modern culture is like,
you do. Okay, so we have that.
They're denying it. People are just denying like what feels natural.
Right. Yes, we have that compass, but that compass is simply to guide us to our own self-realization. Those compasses are not meant for every single person all the time. Like those compasses that we have that say that's a wrong thing to do or whatever, that's just sensing disharmony with where you're currently choosing to resonate from as a vibrational frequency. And so that doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means it's not where you're choosing to perceive and express reality from at this moment. Is someone else? Mean Yeah. But that doesn't mean you have
I kind of believe in, to an extent, to a degree, as a nice Templar, I believe in somewhat object. As a nice Templar, as a Christian, I somewhat believe in an objective morality. I feel like we have this like native like feeling of what's right and wrong. It's like a lot of problems. Okay, so modern culture is people are ignoring their gut instinct. That's
true objective reality. Yes, true objective reality can't truly be objective unless you're endowed with spirit. Until you're truly empowered, you cannot use power until you're empowered. Does that make sense? Like, but you're not judging it though either. So empowerment in and of itself, what does that mean to be empowered? What does that mean? The capabilities of the nervous system for each and every person are different. Like,
fair enough.
Our nervous system is only expanded to a certain degree and to a certain way so that we can perceive and experience reality in a way that merges everything back together in the best and most efficient possible manner. It's a self-correcting thing. It's not something you have to worry about. It's self-correcting. But those places of like how things should move and to where, that's not where we're choosing to perceive reality from. Like, we didn't come to Earth specifically for that. We came to Earth as anchors for that energy that's already being emitted. Like, our higher self, our soul tribes, all of our astral, all of our star families, all of them are projecting their energy into a certain location to create our physical body, to create this experience. You don't have to constantly have proof of that. It's just how it is. So once you get that it's really all here now, then you understand, okay, well, if something needs to be shown to me, it's just going to be shown to me anyway. So I may as well just trust my fucking intuition and know that everything's going to be fine. That's a certain level. So our soul tribes, our soul families, they have certain jobs. There are certain angels. Angels have certain jobs, so to speak. But that's because that is the part of us that never chose to fall from a certain vibration, or to really decompose itself into, because remember, it's 1 foot in, 1 foot out, so it's bringing infinite energy in while still experiencing itself as an angel from an angel's perspective, while experiencing itself as me right now through whatever filters of perceptions that we've created of ourselves, or as you too, and stuff like that. So it's just about how much dedication do you have to bring the energy of divinity that you use to create physical reality. How willing are you to bring that energy up the ladder? And if you are just that intense about it, then yeah, maybe you're like, okay, Parahamsa, Ramakrishna Parahamsa. Parahamsa. I can't remember how to say his name. Sorry, it's
that
I'm
Indian guy.
I'm still working on the brain, still rewiring it. But anyway, Sri Ramakrishna, he died at the age of 33. He did not know exactly when he was going to leave, but he was just being his radiant, normal, he was just being, right? He was just doing exactly what his will was.
Yeah.
His main anchor was food. That was his main thing. He told his cook, or his lady that prepared his food every day, or whatever, he said, the day that I reject your food, know that it's 3 days until time for me to leave,
really?
basically. And that happened. And that happened. Because
something cool I noticed.
The only reason that you would deprive yourself of food or things that would cause density within the system is if you were wanting to pass on. And he knew he was fully capable of doing it, but he was just choosing to sit in. But because the cry for help got greater and greater and greater, for him to be in higher states, or to be in a less solid form, he was called up, and you go up.
I love
It's a circulation.
I love what Aldous how do you say his name? Aldous Huxley. Aldous Huxley. What he did with he dropped Aldous Huxley. I think it was how you pronounce it. I don't fucking know.
It's Aldous. So it's
yeah,
just
I can spell it, but I can't. Aldous. What did you say?
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, he dropped acid on his deathbed. Some way to go.
I heard about that.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I heard he was like friends with like Rothschild, like the Rothschild family and stuff.
Really?
Yeah, they were exchanging letters and stuff, like doing a lot of. I don't know. It's kind of creepy. I don't know too much about him, but I think he was friends with Alan Watts too. I love Alan Watts. I'm a huge fanboy.
Alan Watts is one of the biggest.
Man was the definition. Man was the definition of a wordsmith. Like, I know he had such a good, like, I think because of him that I got into doing this. Like
yeah, dude. No, it's a massive gateway, massive doorway, massive door to perception, massive door, massive catalyst.
Yeah, like, there's something very satisfying to me about writing like a good sentence. Like, you got a good flow, you got this like poetic kind of something very satisfying about it to me. I like I think like in language terms we've gotten stupider. Like before, like 1500s, like just 50 years ago, like the 100 years ago, whatever.
Yeah,
they used to like write so much nicer. Now we're like, okay, I will go to the store and buy some food.
Yeah.
And back then they were like, I will peruse the convenience store.
Right. So what kind of willpower? And so you can see how we start choosing to aim our willpower into more technology, into more things that are separate from us. Yeah. Like we literally are using that. Because nobody's gonna fucking go get on a horse and go ride for 6 days through a goddamn desert anymore. Like, nobody's gonna have that kind of fire to do that most times. But if they do, then it's gonna arise from an accumulation of energy that has been accumulated, of course, through what we would consider suffering most times. It wasn't as necessary before because we hadn't fractalized ourselves as much. We hadn't broken ourselves down into as many forms. We hadn't separated ourselves as much. But now that we've separated ourselves to a great degree, we have to now use technology in a way that links us together, in a way that contributes to a more positive working blueprint for a way that we can transmute some of this negativity.
I'm really interested in like disclosure recently. Like, we've never been closer to alien disclosure. It's an exciting time to be alive, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I agree.
Like the New York Times, like the UFOs, like Pentagon UFOs. It's crazy. I mean, that's like the wet dream of like ufologists, whatever they're called. It's really. I
agree. It's a highly interesting topic, and I think what's most intriguing about it is, we've created movies for how many years now that are based on aliens or like other life forms or Star Wars, Star Trek, the list goes on, right? Yeah. But it's like, where did all of that come from? You know what I mean? Like,
where did all of that truly come from? You know, like you had to have had that process through you first. You know what I mean? Like you had to have you have to be capable of holding that type of energy in order to express that type of energy, or an idea, to create an idea that that energy is worthy of creating. So my thing is, which by the way, George Lucas was actually, he channeled, I think it was like the Council of Nine or something of that nature. Star Trek actually is based on what actually happens in the Orion Wars, and that's a pretty interesting topic. I haven't really delved too much into that. Where did I hear that reference from? I heard that it was in the Law of One. There is, in one of the books, there's a section where he's talking about different things that could basically analogize the war that is happening in space between the extra dimensional life forms. And I believe Ra, who was the quote unquote social memory complex that was being contacted in
the Seth material.
No, not the Seth material. It's the Seth material is great, by the way, but no, this is called the Law of One material, and it's
okay. Yeah.
It's referred to as the raw material a lot of times because but anyway, this being is basically the entire collective energetic force of Venus. Basically, they're a sixth density social memory complex, so to speak, and they basically are truth seekers as well, and so they give it to you from their perspective of how things are expressed or how things played out. And these transmissions, remember, these transmissions happen way in the future, if that makes any sense. Like, to us, we sense it as like a live thing, right? To us, we sense it as like, oh, this is like happening right now, which it is happening right now. But that kind of energy experienced from the level of perception that we're currently experiencing now is so many years in the future, thousands of years in the future, dude. Like that power of light travels light years so quickly, you know what I mean? But it's still that far ahead of us, if that makes any sense. So they're literally already done talking. Like they're even like Bashar, like when they have all the questions and stuff like that, all that shit's already answered. Like by the time, like halfway through that set, like that, they give you the information beforehand, like sleeping at night or over a week's time or like whatever, and then when all that energy accumulates, it builds up, and then you go out and you express it. And so the idea is to like learn how to balance that accumulation of energy and expression within the world. And that's basically like what you see Daryl Anka do with Bashar. That's what you'll see most channels do with how they go about their routines and stuff. Because it can be a very physically taxing thing, and like you really want to make health your number one goal. You really don't want to force yourself to be something, even though you know you're capable of it. Like you really do want to kind of like take your own pace, because you can learn so much from everything around you. Like the entire universe is literally everything around you. Like I can pick up my lighter right now. The entire fucking universe is in this lighter. You know what I mean? But whether I perceive that entirety of the universe within the lighter or not is up to me, right? So
holographic universe.
Again, exactly. So like, and Ra talks about that too. He says, you know, the main thing to pay attention to is to always, number one, like, and he'll say all the time, like, if anything sounds off to you or if it sounds wrong, disregard it. Fuck it. Like, you know, like, don't worry about it. It's not like we're not trying to
create any sort of friction between our connection. We're just explaining how we experiencing it from our point of view, and in the best way that we can through languages that you can understand. And so the body is a language that we can understand. The body in and of itself is a vibrational form, right? So when you see ceremonial things or ceremonial rituals where they give them a drug like peyote or something, and maybe they start convulsing on the ground or whatever, their internal experience may be completely not even that terrible, but it looks awful because the physical body is going through loads of stress, right? So the thing about that is, because everyone's blueprint and genetic system is just not just like, physical genetic system, but like your actual soul lineage, like your actual geometrical blueprints. Like, they are wired to a certain way to where when you experience certain things, it creates a pathway back to the original source and it triggers you, right? So it triggers that original source, and then based on how you respond on that, from that trigger of original source, based on the conditioning, of course, that you're interpreting through, karma is created. Something then has to be projected outwards, and then it must be reflected back to you. It must make its way back up the ladder, so to speak. And that's basically what we see in the life process. You descend down, you incarnate, you die, you disintegrate, and you go back up. You start to unravel your way back up. You could spend what we would consider 400,000 years in the actual realm if you want to. You could, and for most people who haven't gained certain access yet, they'll have to reincarnate on a planet where their vibrational frequency is more resonant towards, where it's more light, maybe it's a lighter incarnation of form, or it's a more dense incarnation of form, because that's what the soul chooses to express itself in.
You think people have to reincarnate, or they choose to?
No, we choose to. We choose to because in that state of mind, the state of mind that we choose to do it from understands that it needs to do it and that it must be done because it's karmic. It simply must be done to be unraveled, to unravel itself.
I think life is a big, beautiful mystery for sure.
Yeah,
but it's very interesting. Like, I was talking to my dad about life after death, and I brought up dreaming. I'm like, so where do you go when you dream? Where's your body then? What's going on?
Well, I think the most important thing to again remember is that when we talk about the afterlife or whatever, the afterlife is actually now. It's actually the during life too. It's just
awakening in the dream.
Where you choose to focus.
That's what I say.
So the way that I would phrase it would be, I wonder how the experience of life will be after I undergo the death process. That's how I would phrase it. And that's because it gives life a more fulfilling meaning. It gives the understanding that life is infinite. It doesn't imply that it ends, which is more accurate. It doesn't end. It just changes into different qualities of the same thing.
Yeah, well, that's what they say. Existence is one of the few things you can't get away from.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so you said something about dreams?
What did I say about dreams? Like dreaming is like when you're dreaming, unless you're like lucid, you have a lucid dream. You think that's the reality, You think that's the reality while you're dreaming, you know? It's the same with
Yeah.
life, you know? You think this is the reality,
Right.
but who knows, you know?
Right. So, thing with dreaming and lucidity or lucid dreaming in and of itself is that it happens when enough of your neurological pathways and your brain cells become awake to your universal nature. When the stars are aligned a certain way in the sky, along with the responses of everyone else's geometrical shape and pattern, which they chose as a soul fragment to express through, it can happen suddenly as well. Like it can happen for the first time, or it can happen, once every, in a blue moon, but you don't know how to consciously do it. What I'm speaking of is people who consciously lucid dream, and they know that they're doing it. That means that an extensive amount of dimensions within the brain has awoken to the fact of its infinity, its reality. And so, because all of those dimensions are open to that, it is able to be experienced, so to speak, because they're opening themselves up to basically merge together through. It's like a phone line, you know what I mean? Like there's the wire that connects both cords, right? And then when you, we're talking right now, so there's like an energetic frequency that literally holds us together, that filters. Like my phone is a filter into your phone so that I can get a message across and so that we can get a message across. Well, that structure in the middle that creates that makes it possible, those have become awoke. Those have awoken within the system. And so because they've become awoken to the fact that they're using the same, they're a part of the same stream, they're able to move in and out of each other's location. Sort of like how you may go from one state to another state, right? And it seems almost surreal when you get to another state if there are drastic changes, because it's like a different world. It's just a different feeling.
They say sleep is the closest you can get to death without
They
dying.
say what now?
They say sleep is the closest you can get to death without dying. I mean, I guess if you're smoking DMT.
Yeah, there are two different. Yeah, DMT is wonderful, but there are two different interpretations of death within the same phrase. Like the first sense of dying. Wait, say what you said again. They say sleeping is closer to death, right?
It's the closest thing to death you can experience.
Right. What did you say after that?
Something about DMT being
right.
The other thing.
Just before that, you said something about dying, and there are two different.
I mean, like sleep is going from one consciousness to another, one state of consciousness to a different state of consciousness.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is like dying in a sense that you're choosing to relocate your energy to another location within you in order to experience or in order for further self-realization and observation. That's one thing. If you do it, if it happens just out of the blue and you don't really control it, then it's more along the lines of kind of like I don't want to say an accident, because it's not an accident because everything was lined up the right way, but it's harder to understand how to get back to that deeper state, because you don't understand that it's just being more present. Like if you'd be more present, then you'd be able to choose to see all these things and whatever within the space of the system. But the different definitions between dying that I was talking about was there's like physically dying, where like you like legitimately have no more association with the physical world, and you specifically experience everything as a quality of formless energy. And then there is the state, there is the other side of dying where like we were talking about DMT, ego death, things of that nature.
Yeah.
Or sleeping, because when you sleep, you reconnect with your with the Creator every night. Whenever you sleep, you're just not always aware. You know what I mean? A lot of the yogis, Maharaji for sure. I remember hearing a lot of stories about how he was just so random. Just so random. Like, 1 second he'd be doing a mantra, the next second he'd be down the road holding a bowl with a coin in the bowl, banging at it in front of people, you know? It's just...
There's a fine line between a madman and sage.
Yeah, there is a massive difference. There is the understanding that you are truly doing God's work, that the energy moving through you is what is necessary in your certain position with your certain blueprint for whatever it is that needs to be done. There are so many small, minute vibrational energies that get transmuted from small things like that. Small things like banging on a bowl with a coin in it, if that's even how it... I mean, because when you really think about how much physics and how much geometry is really in it, man, it's like the butterfly effect, you know?
Yes.
It's like how deeply can you experience yourself?
Wow. Depth is good, but you don't want to be so open-minded that the wind whistles between your ears, you know.
Yeah, that's another part of self-awareness, is being aware of your situations and what you're doing. And the thing about being open-minded is that you can't be open-minded in a sense that you let absolutely anything and everything in. What I mean by being open-minded is that when you feel closed off, make the choice to open your mind up to a new possibility of belief, and then see if that helps anything. Like, see if that, like, test it, you know, like, truly sit back and test it. Being closed-minded is like being conditioned a certain way and then literally trying to hold on to those conditions, like cutting people out, burning bridges consistently, trying to hold a certain standard or a certain form, so to speak. But it's different. It's different whenever you're being open-minded with the intent of transformation. It's very... I don't know. It's very bizarre.
We've been going for about an hour and a half now. You wanna round this out? You got any closing statements for the audience?
No, I just appreciate the opportunity. This is the first time I've really ever done anything like this. So hopefully in the future, you'll hear my voice and see my face, and we'll continue on with the journey. And I hope that that'll be soon. Things are pretty hectic around right now, but yeah, I definitely am feeling more drawn towards expression through social media and through just different sorts of platforms, and just experiencing the experimentation of everything, how it all plays out and how it all comes together, man. So yeah,
thank you for keeping me company. Let's do this again sometime. Let's try and get video next time. But
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, maybe an internet cafe. Better internet.
Nice.
Anyways, thank you so much for coming on, sharing your wisdom, and making the world a more zen place to be. I'll
Thank you,
catch
brother.
next
And I
one.
appreciate your devotion as well, man. It's been a ride. It's been a joy.
And to all of you listening, thank you so much. And stay safe out there, mortals. Cheers.